This is the Roller Coaster Podcast, and I'm your host, Lucy Q. Life is a wild ride. It has twists and turns. It's scary, exciting, and downright fun. So throw your head back, arms in the air, and come along with me for the ride.
Life is like a roller coaster, baby, baby. I wanna ride.
Before we get started, check out nectargrowth.com. nectargrowth.com. It's free to join, but not for long. Nectar is an extension of the roller coaster. It's where you can start your own journey of self-exploration and growth. In Nectar, you'll find different topics of interest, daily blogs, affirmations, journal prompts, and you can connect with some of the fantastic coaches that have been on the roller coaster. Soon, we'll be adding videos, meditations, live discussions, and events. Our signature course is a journey of self-improvement, and it's valued at $397. But once you join, it's available to you at no cost. So if you're feeling stuck, if you feel like you need to change and not sure where to start with Nectar Growth Network. Come join us. You know you're worth it. Now, let's get on with today's show. About a week ago, I had a conversation with several young adults, and they shared with me how they felt lost and didn't really get the whole reason why they were here. They didn't understand the purpose of life. And kudos to them for being able to articulate something that's really quite profound, because it took me a lot longer to figure out how to ask those questions for myself. And as heartbreaking as it was, I now realize that it was actually a gift that they have hidden under all of the darkness that they were feeling, because ultimately they don't want to fall into those prescribed ways that society forces on us. They saw the difference. They didn't know what they wanted. They just knew that they didn't want what they were being presented. Joining me today is Kathleen Flanagan, author of Dancing Souls, to chat about the many faces of our soul's evolution, finding hope, and how we all have a mission in life. Hi, Kathleen.
Hi, Lucy. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. And thanks for having me.
So your journey actually started at an early age. You were in a similar position to those young adults that I was talking to a couple of weeks ago, weren't you?
Yes.
So do you want to share what you went through?
Okay. Well, essentially, I was born with all of this. So that's the first thing. And it took me years to realize that. But when I was 16, my mother had asked me if I wanted to go to an advocacy meeting. And I thought, why not? Had nothing else to do that afternoon. So I went and we did a meditation. So it was my first experience with meditation. And then what happened was, in this meditation, I saw who I thought at the time was God handing me the rod and the staff and said that you're going to change the world. And I thought they were actually nuts, because I was 16, I was lost, I was scared, I was suicidal, I was depressed. I mean, you name it, every negative emotion was engulfing me at that point. But looking at it again, it's like, well, it's God, and he sees something different than I see. So I accepted it. So I did. Now, my mother was very jealous at that point when I was telling everybody about it, because everyone else was pretty excited. But my mother was very jealous, which I didn't understand that either. And what happened from this is I actually started on the journey of finding out who I was. So I started looking into Eastern philosophy just to understand what that meant. And then I started bridging it back into Western philosophy. And I've had a lot of experiences. And then I went to the School of Metaphysics, and my teacher at the time was an astrologer, and she actually started explaining a lot of things to me, as far as that my intuition was so vast that I would never understand it, because I have Neptune in the 12th house. And I always thought everyone else could just do this, because I could sit there and look at you and start telling you about where you live, what's going on in your life. And I'm just talking to you. Well, I scared a lot of people because of it. And I really hated that because I didn't think it was a gift. I thought it was something torturous. And she just basically had told me most people would give their left arm for 1/10 of what I had. And I said, well, they can have it. And she was floored that I would actually say such a thing, because when you're living with something you don't understand, it's very challenging. And trying to understand what this was and harness it. And the School of Metaphysics at that point really did help me to harness the gifts, because I realized I was a healer. I'm an empath. I could heal people, but I took it on me instead of letting it go because I didn't know how to do that yet. And so I just proceeded to move forward in all of this. I just started following spirit because I could hear things, I could see things, and I just moved forward. I could read tarot. I wasn't a big tarot reader because the first time I actually did it for money, I didn't like knowing all this stuff I learned about that person because I had to keep my mouth shut, and you're like, okay, this is way too personal for me.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I wasn't, because I always do it. I've never had a problem doing it, but when I did it for money, it was a different story, because it was like, there was like all these new things that opened up, because it was an exchange of energy saying, yes, I want to know. And they're giving me permission to be able to see to a degree that I don't think I normally ever saw before. And I chose not to go down tarot reading because I didn't care for it. I wanted to do other things. So I learned about how to do Akashic record readings. I can do inner guide meditations, and I'm on the journey with you. So even though the questions are a series that don't make sense, but they do make sense. They just don't make sense to our logical mind, but they're telling a story. And I'm on the journey with you. So even if you can't see or hear something, I can. So I actually walk with you in something like that. And then I started doing a lot of grid work. I work with, so we set up a lot of the grids that have changed on our planet right now. So I did a lot of that in the initial, back 20, 30, 40 years ago. And so that's pretty much been my journey. And then the Archangel Ariel showed up back in probably 2007 or 8, somewhere in there. She showed up and said, I know that you want to be lifted out of where you are, and we're going to do that for you. And that came with many prices that I didn't expect, because some goods, some not so good. And I ended up moving to Chicago and started writing the book Dancing Souls. And what this was the journey of what it's like to wake up and start remembering who you are. And so that's what the book was about, was the awakening it's the journey of an awakening spirit. And all of our great masters have actually gone through this process. And the end result of all of this that I discovered was not so much that I'm enlightened and my life is perfect and wonderful and, all that good stuff. That's not the case. What it does is it took away my excuse of saying, I don't know, because now there's a responsibility. So when you want something like that, there is a responsibility. That means you stepped into service. And so Spirit has asked me basically to move into service, which I have. And I have created a lot of different programs that are on my website. And it was my journey. It's what I did, what it worked for me. They were non-invasive things. I have done so much work on myself that I have brought a lot of light inside my body, because as young adults, and if we have come from traumatic childhoods, which I did, not understanding, my parents didn't know anything. I was traumatized on many, many levels, and I didn't know who I was, and basically told that, you're taking up space on the planet. Why are you alive? You should be dead. And I had to find that all of that was a lie. And that's what the biggest thing I learned is how many lies were given to me and told to me that I took on and believed, even though I didn't think I did, I actually did, because of the way my life was going.
Kathleen, there's so many points in there that I want to dive in and explore. I don't even know where to start. Let me first ask you, you made reference to spirits and the archangels that come and visit you. Do you see them? Do you feel them around you? How does that connect with you?
It all depends. Sometimes I can see them in an etheric place. Sometimes I feel them, but I can hear them. And I just seem to know what their signatures are because we know each other through our energy patterns. So spirit doesn't see us, they see us through energy. And that's how I see them. And with the Archangel Ariel, when I came back from Yellowstone, I actually went to a psychic who, she charged a lot of money. She didn't charge me a lot, but she charged a lot of money for the services because she was really, really good. And what she did is she actually channeled the Archangel Ariel for me. And what an experience. I was sobbing through this whole experience. I was sobbing. And she's like, no, I honor you. And you're like, what? How do you mean you honor me? No. And what I realized is that, yes, it was an honor, but they can't do anything. They need us. They need the physical form of us to do something. And so that was, I think, the biggest thing. And Ariel had said that I was eventually going to not need her, and the things that I'm doing will take on my personality. She was just teaching me and how to bring something new to the planet.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And when you say you hear them, because this is always the thing that gets me. We all have that. Well, I assume we all have it. I don't know. But I talk to the person in my head. How do I know the difference between if it's my own thought or a spirit is trying to communicate with me?
Ask. Simply ask.
And I maybe it's because I just don't want to believe what I'm hearing.
That's part because
of it. I know, and I know I'm asking this because there's people out there that they think they know, but they're too afraid to say anything because, I mean, what are you going to do? Come down at breakfast one day and say, oh yeah, I had a great conversation with Archangel Michael. Like people are going to go, whoa, what are you doing?
I actually have people that are kind of like that. So it's not unusual for me.
But I mean, and that's it, is that, you know, if you're coming, like I'm coming from a place where, you know, sure, my family was religious. We went to the Anglican church. I don't consider myself religious, but I consider myself very spiritual. I'm not one for labels because I believe that there's value in so many different messages out there. So there's been times when I thought, I'm pretty sure somebody was saying something, but it's almost like I don't want to believe it because it scares me.
Well, you just hit it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, you hit it.
It scares the living crap out of me, to be perfectly honest.
Well, of course it does, because that means they're reaching you because you're asking. So they're reaching back to let you know that they're hearing you and they're going to help you. Now, the next question is, how committed are you to that? Because once you commit, they're going to send you on a whirlwind.
And I think I did inadvertently commit. And the whirlwind they're sending me on is a new, I don't know what the term to use it for, business, product, platform, to help lots of people heal. I guess that's as good as my answer is going to get right now. And you're right. I'm sitting here, and it was through talking with another guest I had. I was telling her about this idea, and I said, oh, it's too big though. I can't do it. And she's like, no, you don't understand. They gave you this idea because it's your responsibility to bring it to the world.
Mm-hmm. She's absolutely right.
And it's a scary place to be.
It's very scary because when I wrote the book, I can't tell you how many times I thought the book was changing and morphing into something other than what I originally thought. And I kept saying, this is too big. And it's in the book. I put this stuff because this is when you're moving into your greatness, things are too big. They feel too big because we are so small in our thinking, and we have minimized who we are when we're not that at all. And I think that was when I started to just accept that, you know, and realize, because you will be shown that you're the only one who could do this. You will be shown that. And I realized that when I wrote the book, there were times of nobody could bring this but me, nobody. And you just know.
Yeah. And that goes back to your previous comment about remembering who you are. And that's because, depending on your own belief system, but I believe that we come here with a purpose. You referred to the Akashic records, so we plan our experiences here. And that remembering who you are that's almost, correct me if I'm wrong, that's remembering who you are in spirit on, the other side, right?
Yes. I was actually shown, after my mother had passed away, I was actually shown who I was. It was like I was in my bedroom, and this whole thing with my mom it's all in the book about who she really is and who I was in relation to her. And I was standing at the foot of the bed, and I got to make that decision what to do with my mother. We think we do. Oh, no. The death experience and how we go through things are way different than what we're being told. And there's no doubt in my mind that what I saw was real. And when I stood there, I closed my eyes for a minute, and it was like I saw this magnificent wings unfurl. That's what it looked like. And I became huge, like this massive, huge giant of a person, kind of like when, who was it? Gabriel. I set up a circle, and the archangels could come in, and I was partially in the circle, and the Archangel Gabriel came in, and I went down for the count. His energy was so massive because they're trying to protect themselves from us. I got hit, and he was massive. So it was like when I saw him, it was like I think I was at his knee. That's how big he was.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I'm trying to say is like, we're tall, big, we're just massive energy. And so I think that's pretty much it. You just have to know who you are. And when I saw that, I embraced it in a way that I never embraced that before, because it was finally okay. For some reason, it was finally okay. It wasn't any more fear or angst or terror or let me finish this first. It was like I had totally surrendered at that moment into who I am, and my life changed right after that because of it.
And I have said almost the exact same words. I went through a rough spot. I call it scraping the bottom of shit barrel. And it was in those dark moments I called out to the universe, just give me one thing. What do I do? And sure enough, it answered. The universe answered. And that started me on this journey to where I am now. And I had no clue who I was. And this happened in 2017. I was 44. That's a long time to wait and figure out who you are. But that was my journey. We can't beat ourselves up for what we figure out when about our lives, because it comes up exactly when it's supposed to come up.
And you made that decision.
Yes.
Nobody else made that decision for you. You have a plan. When you come down here, you have a plan. And I can tell you, when I was in my 20s, I had this dream, and I was at this finish line, and it's like my guys were right there. And I was like one step behind where I wanted to be at a given moment in time. And I was so angry at myself. I'm like, I'm only a step away. And I was like yelling at them, but I was so mad at myself. So yeah, we plan when we're going to have these experiences, and our guides help us to accomplish them at that point. And I think the dream was trying to tell me, yes, you're on schedule. You're a step behind of where you want to be, but we don't have any judgment on you.
Well, we are exactly where we're supposed to be, but everything changed when you have that moment of complete surrender.
Yeah.
That's when it complete changes. And, you know, I know some of the things that you talk about, you know, you talk a lot about the power of visualization. And that's a concept that, man, I wish I knew about that a lot younger. I didn't, you know, it's not part of my story, but, you know, I try and share that with as many people, because we do get to paint our own picture for our future.
Well, let me tell you, when I started all this 40 or some years ago, 50 years ago, I read a lot of the books that were out there, not what's out here today, but the old ones when we were really starting to bring this message to the world. And I decided years ago to start rereading them. And the answers were there the whole time. I wasn't ready for those answers to hear it the way you said it. So yes, I knew about visualization. Did I understand visualization? No, I could sit there and say, yes, I see myself living here. I have this, you know, I want certain things, but there's more to it than just visualizing. You have to put all of you in there. You have to believe it. You walk as if, you move, you take one step towards that. You can't just, because the rest of the time it's just a fantasy. And not knowing all of that, you know, working towards it, but not fully comprehending it. So you can't beat yourself up for it because you weren't ready.
Exactly. And, you know, that's exactly what I did in that moment of surrender. Is I looked, who is it that I want to be? You know, if I didn't want to be this person, who do I want to be? And what did that person, what did they act? How did they spend their time? How did they think? And I went through that, and that all began to shape every step I took after that. And it's very important, because you can't, and I go back to the saying all the time, Jim Carrey says something about, you know, you can't just visualize it and then go eat a sandwich.
That's true.
That's what people think is, you know, and I think, you know, the movie The Secret kind of painted the wrong picture, as if I just have to think about it and it's going to come to. Well, no, you have to take inspired action. You have to see it, believe it, and then you have to step into it by actually doing something.
Get off the stage is how I say what I say, because we're in the drama of our lives. I mean, if you really step back, literally step back and observe. Because when I was writing the book, I had a friend who kept saying, get off the stage. I said, what are you talking about? He said, get off the stage. Get off the stage, sit in the audience and watch what's happening. Well, but you need to have emotion to make change. You need this, you need this. He says, but you don't have to be in the drama. So I took a lot of that. I thought about that for a long time. And I realized I don't like drama. Drama's on the dance floor for me. It's not in my life. People have a lot of drama. I do my best to walk away, or I stand back. So how I look at it is what I need to do, and then I step back and I observe what's coming in. Like if I don't know what to do next, that's when I get off the stage and I let spirit come in and show me what's next, because I don't know what else to do. So that's part of the whole surrendering too. Do what you can, get off the stage, sit back and wait. And we don't wait for anything. We are an impatient people. We're a 7-Eleven society.
We're patient as long as we get it right now.
Yeah. And that doesn't work. You have to sit back, you know? I mean, there's things you have to do. And when we step back, we start receiving. Because that's another thing that most of us don't know how to do. We can give, we don't know how to receive, but you need that receiving, because it's the law of giving and receiving. And spirit's giving to you, but you're not receiving it. So those are other elements of, you know, part of that, like, yes, I want to be a better person. Yes, I want to change this. I don't like this about myself. And you start moving, but sometimes we don't know what to do. Maybe we need somebody to help us get over a hump.
And gratitude plays a massive part in that as well.
Oh,
it's almost
totally.
like, it's almost when you understand what gratitude is, because again, like I watch The Secret like everybody else, and I try to do gratitude, and I'd write down, I'm glad I have feet, and I got it. And it just did not work. It didn't work. But when I learned how to do gratitude properly for myself, where you could actually feel the love and the joy and the happiness in your heart, like your heart bursts. that's true gratitude. Once I understood that and learned how to understand gratitude, then it's almost like, what do I want to say? You almost open yourselves up to hear more.
You do. Because you're getting out of your way. So like when my mother died, I was in a very dark place because grief is horrible. I mean, especially when it's your mother. Oh my God, who knew? And the only thing I knew how to do at that point was just say, thank you for letting me back. And I felt, because I was like observing the blue sky. And that means something because I really am about nature and getting energized from nature. And as I kept saying that, it was like everything started to open up a little bit more. Like I was able to start moving out of grief because Spirit said, here's a technique for you to get out of this. And I did it. And it was like, as soon as I did, it was like, it was like my left and right hemispheres were because I was rewired. And I never felt the pit of that grief as I did. And that was only because I got out of my way so I could hear them. Because if you're staying in your muck, you're not going to get answers. You're not going to move forward because you're in your muck. You have to lift yourself up. And gratitude is the fastest way to do that. And sincerely feel it in your heart, like you said.
Yeah, you do. You have to feel it with your whole self. Oh boy, there's so many things that we can dive into, Kathleen. But I think the best thing to do is find out what's the best place for people to connect with you.
Well, I have a website. It's KathleenMFlanagan.com. And I have a list of all those different services that I provide. So I have a lot of YouTube videos of little quick tips of how to move through a book. My book is on there, so you can get the book there, and it's also on Amazon. My social media page is on Facebook is Kathleen M. Flanagan Coach. And then Instagram is KathleenM.Flanagan.
If you are looking at connecting with Kathleen, make sure to check out the show notes. I'm going to have all of her links in there. And Kathleen, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your story.
Well, thank you, Lucy. It was really a lot of fun being here.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Roller Coaster Podcast. Want to chat or share your ideas about today's show? Pop me an email at hello@therollercoasterpodcast.com. Don't forget to connect with me on Facebook and Instagram at The Roller Coaster Podcast. Our theme song, Roller Coaster, was performed by The Lucky Setback. Audio editing by the one and only Jeff Quigley of Quigley Creative.